Alright guys, thank you for checking in on Stormtopia.com and the Stormtopia.com Facebook page. We're going to have our daily weather update right now with details on the nor'easter that could be upon us for the northeast U.S. by Friday. I'll take you to the weather map for the NAM by the time we get out to later in the day on Wednesday. You see here, very big ridge, very warm, tranquil weather pattern for most of the central and western United States. Same time, there's a cutoff low through the southeast where we are going to have scattered showers and thunderstorms tomorrow for the southeast. Relatively tranquil weather for Wednesday in the northeast, but that's going to change into Wednesday night as we get a low pressure center developing in the southeast. You can see here on the GFS that by later Wednesday night into early Thursday morning, the rain will be getting heavier through the southern mid-Atlantic into places like northern North Carolina, into Virginia Beach. Virginia could have some gusty winds as well as the storm center begins to develop northeast of Cape Hatteras early Thursday morning. The GFS wants to really develop the low pressure center with heavy rain, strong winds coming back into the mid-Atlantic. The NAM has other ideas, bringing a relatively light storm with relatively weak winds. I'm going to go with a combination of the GFS and the Euro and the UK Met, since the strong solution seems to be a little bit more predominant at this point. You can see by later Thursday, low pressure centers moving southeast of Long Island. We're seeing heavy rain, wind swept along the coastlines through a lot of the northeast mid-Atlantic back into southern New England. There's enough cool air back into the Great Lakes that the eastern Great Lakes and even into northern New England, upstate New York, it will likely be snowing by later Thursday, perhaps with a mix/change to rain and mix and snow. I'll show you my thoughts for that in a graphic in just a few minutes. Before we get to that, here you can see as we finish up on the GFS run, brings the storm center right on through, and the storm should be over by Friday, wrapping up Friday morning, totally over by Friday night. NAM brings a weaker storm in, really not a big deal, not strengthening it into a big deal until it gets into the Gulf of Maine. The UK meteorological model, the UK Met, brings a pretty strong system, 990 millibar low with strong winds and heavy rain back into New England where the strong wind should be along with heavy rain, and the mid-Atlantic where mostly heavy rain will be associated with it. It also brings a very cold solution. You can see by very cold, those isobars are just draining down into the Great Lakes. European model is really at this point friends with the GFS in terms of agreement here. But there is one trend that I really want to point out to you guys. Here you see that the European, yes, very well agreed with the G. I just want to do one thing for a second. There we go. Big trough as the storm moves its way on in, so cooler air all the way down out of Canada. There's a storm center, ends up coming into southern New England. But here's the point I want to make out to you guys. The European model has probably one of the coldest solutions, and here's why. The reason why it's likely to be a mostly rain event on other models for most of the Northeast, except the interior Northeast, is because on the eastern side of the storm, the strong winds from the low pressure center, as it moves off the mid-Atlantic coast, will bring in warm air from the Gulf Stream. Well, when you look at the isobar map here on the European, those isobars associated with the Gulf Stream are not going into the center of the storm. They're actually going into mid-Atlantic Canada. They're actually going into the North Atlantic around Denmark, or excuse me, not around Denmark, but around Iceland and Greenland, instead of the low pressure center that's currently centered over New England. That would be the coldest solution because that jet stream air is not getting pulled in by the low pressure center. Arguably, that would mean a weaker low pressure center, but just an interesting solution possible here. Now, before we wrap up this video, just so you know what I'm thinking at this point, well, I'm thinking it's going to be a relatively significant storm. Here's the deal. Low pressure center is going to move off Delmarva, going to move east to the mid-Atlantic, possibly making landfall near Montauk, then possibly moving over southeast New England around Cape Cod. There's going to be heavy windswept rain for coastal mid-Atlantic, all rain, and maybe not windswept for the rest of the mid-Atlantic, back into most of southern New England, also for coastal Maine. It's going to be a mix of rain and sleet and snow for areas of the higher elevations of the Appalachians. It could be mostly rain even in the areas that are in orange, which indicates a mixed precipitation. It could be actually rain for the same areas that I say will mix, but could be a change/mix with rain and snow. Mostly snow, but possibly some mix, even some rain back into areas further west for the eastern Great Lakes, mostly 1 to 3 inches of snowfall. 3 to 6 inches is possible in the Adirondacks and northern New England, where the heaviest shield of precipitation will move through later on Thursday. Obviously, very deep trough en route to the Great Lakes in the Midwest, which is where we are expecting a very cold day on Thursday, perhaps a little bit drier than areas further east. Thank you for checking into Stormtopia.com. I hope I made this video short and speedy, and I hope I packed in a lot of information for you guys. Please spread the word about our website, and have the best day ever.